podcast. This week, I'm going to be breaking down fantasy football tight ends, and it's definitely going to be an essential position. For me, I feel like it's definitely the most top heavy, being that only maybe 1 to 3 players are going to give you about 1,000 yards or even close to it. Outside of that, you're really just looking for consistent value, and anybody who can get you 4 to 5 catches, maybe in the 5 to 6 touchdown range on the season. But obviously, you want to get double-digit production without hopefully sacrificing at other positions. But nonetheless, man, I'll go ahead and break down my list. And with number 10, I got Cole Kmet, tight end out of Chicago. Just got paid this past offseason, and I definitely feel like he should have a pretty solid season. Hopefully he can get more targets. Justin Field has potentially improved as a passer. I know they got him a couple of additional weapons in the receiving game. So hopefully Kmet can, kind of emerge as, that focal point out of that position for Chicago. Let's go ahead and check out his stats from this past year. And old Cole, let's see here. Yeah, so according to Yahoo, they got him ranked at 15. And for Mr. Kmet, so last season put up 544, 7 touchdowns, which 7 touchdowns, definitely something you can work with. You would hope he can get those yards up to maybe 700, 800, but if he's scoring touchdowns, it's definitely going to help your team out. And, again, I got him ranked low because Chicago hasn't really proven that they're going to be able to air it out. I think they were averaging about 225 or somewhere in that ballpark for his passing yards. So that right there lets you know that he's probably going to be getting 35 to maybe 50 yards receiving, which isn't great, but again, it's better than a goose egg. So any production you can get is always, well received. Right. And number 9, we got old Dalton Schultz. Another guy who, has been pretty productive, had a couple of seasons as far as declines, but he's with the new team, the Texans. They got a rookie quarterback. So they're definitely going to be looking to find any type of production. With Schultz being a veteran player, that the Texans have a lot of younger receivers at that position. So far as tight ends, I think he can be a good check down player, get a lot of, third down conversions and stuff like that. So hopefully he can have an up year this upcoming season. Let's go and check out what he was putting up last year. And Yahoo has got him ranked at number 16, so behind Cole Kmet on that front. As far as stats last year, put up 577. The year prior, he put up 800 yards and 8 TDs. Last year, he only got 5. So I think with the new look this year, hopefully he can be more of that dominant force and get in the end zone a lot more. And, hopefully health is there for him. Looks like he played all 15 of the 17 games last year. So, definitely going to be on the field a lot of the time. So definitely wishing homie best of luck. Right at number 8, we got David Njoku, a guy who has a lot of potential. You can see spurts from time to time. It'll be a few weeks where a guy's putting up, 110 yards, 80, 90 yards. And then, whether it's injury or just not featured in the game plan, dude can definitely check out and, lay some goose eggs. So, preseason wise, he's been, showing flashes again, a couple of big plays this previous weekend. So a guy that I wouldn't reach too far for, but, if he can potentially be a backup or, even a guy who I can get in the later rounds, definitely somebody who I would definitely keep my eye on, but wouldn't reach too far. Like, unless all the other tight ends are just, getting drafted, one after another, I would probably hold off on, letting him be one of my higher priorities. And let's go ahead and check out his stats from last year. And according to Yahoo, they got him at number 10. And yeah, 628. That seemed to be kind of his peak yardage, around the 600 mark, a little over. 14 out of the 17 games last year. Year prior, played 16 out of 17. So he's on the field the majority of the time. It's really hard to get any position group to play 17 games. If you are, you're probably one of the premier players on your team. But, if he can up that number, maybe get to the 800 mark, turn the 4 touchdowns into maybe 7, that'd be really ideal. But Again, any one of your players, you would typically want them to get double-digit touchdowns, but you also got to understand the receivers are going to be the top priority. So any positive production you can get out of the tight end position is, always appreciated. But yeah, if I can get Njoku in round number 6, maybe 7, if I haven't had a tight end by then, I'd feel comfortable with them at that spot. But, depending on your league size and how many participants, yeah, you definitely want to identify what the trends are and just try to find, the best value at every position you can. Tight end is one you can probably kind of hold off on, because if you miss out on one of the top, I would say 3 to 4 guys, then really at that point, you're really just hoping that any player is going to emerge. So it's not really, too much science into it. Again, just want to make sure you're not sacrificing a whole lot just to get a mid-tier tight end. You don't want to miss out on, Jalen Hurts or any of the other quarterbacks just to get a mid-level tier at a tight end. Right, and number 7, we got Dallas Goedert, a guy who's been doing it year in and year out. Philly's looking really, really good. Goddard didn't put up crazy numbers. Definitely a guy who is going to get in the end zone. Not a whole lot, but it might be a 2 to 3 week stretch where he's not really getting in the end zone. But he's going to get those catches. If you're in PPR, definitely something you'll appreciate. If you're in a standard league without points per catch, then maybe you want to find somebody who's going to get more volume catches than that. But for the most part, Goddard, I got him at the 7 spot because he isn't quite physically elite, a little bit older, not too old, but the potential's there because Philly is definitely going to be scoring a lot of points. You're just hoping that they're not going to be Jalen Hurts scrambling for rushing touchdowns or just hand the ball off. So, depending on how teams decide to scheme Philly this year, I can definitely potentially see him having a lot more production out of that position. And let's go and check out his stats from last year. And according to Yahoo, they got him at number 6. Right. And last year put up 700 yards, which ain't bad. He had 830 the year prior, 4 TDs, 3 TDs the past couple of years. Seems like 2019, that's been his best year for his touchdowns. But again, hopefully this year he can see that number jump to 6, maybe even 7, and that'd be ideal. I highly doubt he's ever going to get double-digit touchdowns, especially with Devonta and the other receivers over at Philly. But yeah, again, Goddard, good value. Like, for me personally, if I don't get 1 or 2, maybe round 6 to 7, I start looking at a tight end. I'm really, really going to focus heavy on getting receivers because, even though a bunch of teams have 1,000-yard receivers, I definitely want to make sure I have an abundance of them so I can use them for trade bait, or, any player I have is one player my opponents don't have. So, I'm really just trying to fulfill every single need, but also I'm trying to hoard everything. Right, and number 6, we got Darren Waller, a guy who potential-wise probably has the most freakish athletic ability out of all the tight ends. He's put up some monstrous numbers, but, through off-the-field issues and also health, he just hasn't been able to put up the dominant seasons he had maybe 2 to 3 years ago. And he's on a new team now. The Raiders decided that they wanted to move in a different direction, drafting a tight end this upcoming year. So I can definitely see Waller having a breakout season, but for me personally, he's one of those guys I've identified as, hey, I'm going to try to avoid him unless he's at a really, really good spot. Health has been, something that I really have struggled with as far as my roster. I'm able to get the top end talent, but, whether it's knee or ankle injuries, I just haven't been able to sustain a healthy roster. So, that'll end up having me getting trades and, just kind of working the wire. So, Darren Waller, unless he's in a incredible spot, like, round number 8 to 9, which obviously he's not going to drop down to somebody to scoop him before that. But yeah, my first few rounds, I'm definitely not going to, target Waller. I just need to see it before I can believe it. And let's go ahead and check out his stats from last season. Yahoo has him ranked at number 7. And again, you can see the decline. 2019, 2020, over 1K both seasons. Then year after that, 21, 600. Last year, 88. And again, I'm unsure if he's really gonna ever be that peak player where he's putting up over 1,000. But I do think that he can maybe get 700 to 800, 5 touchdowns. But again, I'm not really gonna. Yeah, I'm just not fucking with it because again, the injuries really concern me. I hope he has a healthy season, but just a player I've identified as I'm staying far away from. Right, and number 5, we got old Evan Ingram. Coincidentally, he used to play for the Giants, ended up going to Jacksonville, and he's a player who has really good upside, really, really fast. Like I think his 40 time was like a 4.5, 4.4. Just he's got some jets on him. Granted, definitely is a veteran at this point now, but Jacksonville is one of those teams that I think is going to have a phenomenal season. Hopefully they can, kind of piggyback on the production they had last season, making it to the playoffs, playing the Chiefs really good in the second round. Like I think Jacksonville has a lot of upside, and Ingram can be a big part of that. So with the addition of Calvin Ridley, Christian Kirk's been looking really good as well. I can definitely see Ingram just being that threat in the center of the field, red zone, big strong target. I think he's like 6'2" or some shit like that, but yeah, he's one of my sleeper guys as far as I think he can really compete for that 1 to 2 statistical mark at the end of the season. So definitely keeping my eye out for finding Ingram at the right spot. Right, and according to Yahoo, they got him at number 9. And he's actually 6'3", but yeah, so last year 700 yards, statistically his best receiving yard season, and 4 touchdowns. So yeah, those are numbers you can mess with. Again, if you can get 800 yards out of your tight end, you're doing good. Obviously 1 to 1,000, but 4 to 7 touchdowns is kind of the position's benchmark. So anything that exceeds that, then you're doing really, really good. Right, and number 4, we got TJ Hawkinson, who had a few monster games. I think he might have had one of the top 5 most receiving yards in the game this past season. I think it might have been like 180, 190, just monster yards. And I think that might have been whenever his first game, whenever he got traded to the Vikings. Why Detroit traded him for so low, who knows? But obviously Detroit has an idea of what their identity is going to be, and they probably weren't trying to pay Hawkinson. So yeah, he's one of those guys who has really good physical attributes. Didn't put up super crazy season-wide stats, but as far as just having a few big games, he's definitely that guy who can do so. Statistically, I think he's definitely going to finish in the top 5 at that position. Isn't going to get in the end zone a whole lot because anytime you got Justin Jefferson, you got to feed the fuck out of him until dude's limping off the field. But I would feel comfortable with Hawkinson at my tight end position. I think he's going to average 7 to 8 points on a few weeks, give you 15. But yeah, he's going to be stable. And again, that's kind of the name of the game at the tight end position. You just want stable and steady. You want to be able to identify how many points you're going to get, so that way you can kind of reach at other positions. So if your tight end's going to put up 5 to 10, okay, I can potentially reach a running back for this upcoming week, and hopefully it can get a monster game for one of my players. But yeah, just kind of identifying your weaknesses as well will really help you make the best decision as far as where you're going to draft your guys at. And let's go ahead and check out his stats this past season. They got Hawkinson at number 3 on the Yahoo rankings. And yeah, 519 yards, not his best yardage season, 3 touchdowns. Again, I think 2 of those may have come in one game, but just far as coming to a new team during the middle of the season, I think he fit in really well. Kirk gets a lot of shit, but he's a solid QB. Maybe not going to win you a Super Bowl, which is okay. Very few do win it, but as a fan, you want your team to be competitive, and you want the opportunity to at least make the playoffs and potentially have a shot at winning the Super Bowl, which is all you can ask for, All right, and number 3, we got old George Kittle, who I kind of struggle with this. It was either George Kittle or Mark Andrews, who I was going to put at number 2. Kittle down the stretch was a monster, like over 100 yards, and I think like 4 out of the last 5 games just really put it on. And he's one of the dudes who, can block really well, obviously good in the catching game, but if Purdy can, kind of rekindle the, magic they had late in the season, I think Kittle can really, really compete for, getting number one in yardage. And as far as touchdowns, like he had double digits. That's definitely a number that you want to look for. Yeah, if he's still around in the second round and I haven't drafted a tight end, maybe I'll look for him. It really all depends on, what other players are going. Again, you really got to just look at what your friends are doing. That is going to be the key. If everybody's taking quarterbacks in the first round, you better fucking believe you better get a quarterback in the first round. Or, whatever position group is starting to go very, very fast, you definitely want to identify that and, just kind of play it as is. For me, I kind of identify my top 5 to 6 at every position groups. I know my friends really well. They know me well. So we kind of know who's going to pick who. The Cowboys are, by the name of their team, they're going to pick Cowboys players. So I'm like, okay, no CeeDee Lamb, no other players from the Cowboys. Also in my league, we have a lot of UT fans. So if there's any premier UT players, I know they're going to be gone as well. I have a buddy who's a really big fan of, you know what? Probably shouldn't say that because I got him on my board. So yeah, fuck that dude. Over the years, if you've been in the league long enough, like our league has a really good community. We've known each other for years. So, you kind of understand like, hey, they're going to pick their favorite players. I'm going to pick my favorite players. And, you're really just looking for up and coming players if you can in the later rounds. So that way you can kind of stash them and hope they emerge later in the year. But yeah, again, Kittle at the number 3 spot. If you got him at number 2, I'm not mad at you at that. But yeah, I think he's going to have another phenomenal season. And the way he plays is just football to a T. And according to Yahoo, they got him at number 4. And so, yeah, dude, last year, 700 yards, which isn't great, but man, 11 touchdowns. That's the number you want. Like, you just got to think to yourself, the way the scoring is in our league, you're going to get, 6 points per touchdown? So I'll take that over 6 catches all day because, my dude's a scoring threat. And, he's not going to have to bang himself up getting a shit ton of catches. Just lob that bitch up in the end zone and let's make shit happen. Right. And number 2, we got Mark Andrews, who has the tight end Isaiah Likely behind him. So I definitely feel like with that pressure behind him, Andrews is going to have, not a make it or break it season, but, I feel like anytime there's a threat of a guy who could be as talented and a lot cheaper, the veteran player is going to have to step his game up. Does that mean that, Baltimore is going to take away reps? Probably not. But I can definitely see them having packages where both of them are on the field. Andrews has been the number 1 target for Baltimore. Like, Lamar will find him no matter what. With Odell coming over to Baltimore, I could see, maybe the targets going down some. But again, it's only one football. Lamar just getting paid is probably going to put an emphasis on him passing. Excuse me. Like in his MVP season. And despite a lot of accounts, like Lamar can pass pretty good. Like, if you look at any quarterback, they're going to miss throws. Anytime you got grown men that are 6'6" running full speed at you, like, you're going to miss the target a few times. But Andrews being number 2, if I can get him in the first 2 to 3 rounds, then I'm super happy. Because again, in my opinion, it goes 1, 2, 3, and then a drop off. Like Hawkinson at number 4 is okay. Ingram's okay at 5, but it's like in the first few rounds, I'm really not going to take those guys over a premier receiver. Like I would take CeeDee Lamb over Mark Andrews if they're both available at the same spot. So, Andrews could have a really good season. Again, I think he's potentially going to have a good one with the pressure of having a Likely right behind him, lighting that fire, which is good. You hope and steel sharpens steel. And again, he's averaging roughly over 800 yards, best season being 2021. He had 9 touchdowns that year. Last year, he only had 5, which is okay. He didn't have Lamar the entire year, so that's going to be a focal point this year is getting him the ball as well as Odell. So, Baltimore, they're historically always going to be a running team, but for some reason this year, I feel like they're really going to try to emphasize passing, especially with getting a new OC up in the building. So, yeah, Andrews at number 2 is definitely probably accurate as fuck. And we see the best for last, old Travis Kelce, who has been reliable as fuck for me. Like anytime, like if I had the first pick in the draft, I would take Travis Kelce. Like, dude's a monster. Always putting up over 1,000 yards, always getting close to 10 TDs. Like one of my favorite players, just one of the best characters on the field. You know, just kind of bring the excitement point to it. Super competitive. Like, I just think if you're an up and coming tight end in the league, you should identify what Kelsey's doing, or you should identify what Kittle's doing, replicate that shit as best as you can, and you know you'll definitely have a longevity. But yeah, let's go ahead and check out Kelsey's stats. Yeah, and again, I mean, look at that shit. Like over 1,000 yards, like fucking 7 years in a row. Last year put up 12 TDs. I mean, he's definitely, you know, I would say knocking on the door being one of the best tight ends, but again, you got Gronk, you got Shannon Sharp, you got other guys like that, you know, so definitely a well decorated position. Can't forget Tony Hawk, his predecessor, essentially. But no, I mean, Kelsey, I think, at least for me, one of the most exciting tight ends. Can't say the best because, you know, he's one of the better receivers, but, you know, as far as blocking like Kittle, I mean, he's basically a right tackle at that spot. So, yeah, I'm definitely got Kelsey at the top of my board. If he's there in the first round, I'm taking him in the first with no hesitation. Like the drop off at tight end is crazy, but you know, Kelsey is one. I mean, he's basically a number one wide receiver, so that's why I feel like he's in a different tier than other position or other players like Evan Ingram and so on. So yeah, if I got Kelsey on my team, I know I'm getting 15 points a week, and then I can kind of work my team, you know, from that point. But yeah, you know, it's kind of my breakdown. Hopefully, this information is able to help everyone who hears it out. I'm not going to do a breakdown of wide receivers. By doing so, I feel like I'm going to leak a lot of trade secrets. Tight end, everybody knows Kelsey is one of my favorite players, so you know that's not really, you know, any breaking news. But yeah, wide receivers, again, I'm not going to break that down. I'm going to do quarterbacks probably on Thursday. You know, that way I can kind of prepare for my draft this week, just start doing my board. And yeah, you know, before I get out of here, just want to say fuck the Oilers, and hopefully they have a shitty season. You know, I've lost to them probably 2 of the past 3 years, so this year I'm definitely going to put it on their ass. But again, thanks for listening. Hope you have a great time, a great draft, and B-Day coming up. So yeah, turned 35, so I need the trophy this year. All right, everybody be safe. Peace.